My name is Scott Wadsworth. I've got two 2x72 grinders. This is a shop built. It was the only one I had for quite a while. It's noisy and it's jumpy. But the 2x72 speaks to the belt. It's 2 inches wide and 72 inches long. Okay, and so grinders like this come in different sizes, but 2x72 is industry standard for blacksmiths and knife grinders and swordsmiths. This one I got from Fear, P-H-E-E-R grinders. This fellow's up in Beaverton, I think, local guy. Man, he does great. He makes a nice grinder. It's easy to deal with. This is a lot more sophisticated than that one. Obviously, it's quieter and it doesn't jump all over. And it's variable speed. We can slow it way down. This is a variable frequency drive, and it actually converts 240 single phase into 3-phase power. And then I built in a feature here where it'll do that, so you can look at the profile of what you're grinding from the top instead of bending your neck over. So this table, it's just about the coolest thing. It weighs 5,000 pounds, okay? This is solid, okay? That is a solid piece of steel with about 270.5 square holes in it. It's called a platen table, and it came from the Mare Island shipyards down, I guess, south of San Francisco. And it was given to me by a fellow that watches the channel. Peter Orr is his name. He heard me mention that I someday would like to have a platen table. He emailed me, I've got one, come down and get it. So I did. I went down to Vacaville and brought that home. And there's just so many things that I'm learning to do with that. And so for both of those reasons, and the fact that it's a 5,000 pound, 5-foot square anvil. You can beat on it, you can straighten things. So I love that. I built this forge, I guess 8 or 9 years ago, because I had a commission for a bunch of big truss plates, like big, and I had to get them hot and texture them. So I needed to build a forge, and so it's worked out well. It was nerve-wracking. I'd never seen anything like this, and no one else had either. But it turned out it worked, and that was a great relief. The propane comes in overhead, and there's just so many things in here that have become sort of integral, in so many ways with what's going on. Certainly to the channel, but before that, just to the things that I would represent myself as being able to do. So the blacksmith shop is just defined by cool tools. I mean, those tongs, virtually all of the blacksmith tools that are over in the corner here were given to me 17 years ago now by a local man named Bill Vian. And the story of receiving those tools we'll put on the channel someday, but it's just an amazing thing. It was the entire contents of a railroad roundhouse blacksmith shop, like over 400 pieces. And so having received all that stuff, I of course had to learn to be a blacksmith, which was something I'd always sort of ached to do. And having been a carpenter for like almost 30 years at that point, I knew how to hammer, and I'd been a welder, and so I understood some. Anyway, it's just been a thing. But it came with this beautiful anvil. And it's interesting, but anvils in general, and this anvil in particular, sort of provided the springboard for us to do this channel, because we did 5 or 6 videos or something, and we had a few subscribers, like 300 or something. And then we did a video about the blacksmith's anvil, about the sort of the genesis and the progression and the I'll say evolution of anvils and the shape and the technology that it took to be able to make an anvil, and uploaded it. And over a weekend, we got 120,000 views over the weekend, which was pretty good. And I was like a teenager walking down Main Street looking at the reflection in the storefront. I couldn't get away from the computer, reading the comments and watching the view count go up. I just couldn't even imagine what was going on. So it's just interesting that video made us think differently about YouTube and what potential might be there. So it's just so interesting that an anvil, and this anvil in particular, has been so pivotal and in what has become my old age. And in fact, that's the name of the channel. I had named my blacksmithing business Essential Craftsman. And not because it's such an insufferable brag, but because the blacksmith was the essential craftsman. If you didn't have a blacksmith, you didn't have a town, you didn't have tools for carpenters or tailors or printers or anybody else. It all came from right here, and so that made the blacksmith the essential craftsman. So that was what was driving that. So that 448-pound hay button anvil is maybe my favorite worldly possession, probably. There are other things. I love the power hammer, and this fly press belongs to Ken Jordan that you may have met on the channel. Ken is a fellow that's in so many of the videos, smoking the pipe and sitting in the chair, and he's just an amazing guy. And this belongs to him. He sits on loan to me. The crane will keep me working until hopefully a week before I die, and I put that in about a year before the channel started, so I don't have any footage of doing that, but it's sure handy to have something in the shop that'll lift things, I'll tell you. This is where as a contractor, you've got to have a place for a table saw and a chop saw, and so this was just kind of rough because I didn't do cabinet work for the jobs I was taking. I subbed that out, so I would just rip moldings and boards and make cuts and prefabricate the pieces for forming projects. But I'm upgrading the wood shop now because 2 years ago, I found some nice oak trees, and I felled them, and I brought a sawmill in, and I had them cut into beautiful clear vertical grain oak lumber that's going to be dried and planed probably in June, next month or the month after. So I'm going to get a bunch of beautiful lumber, and I'm going to upgrade this wood shop because I'm going to remodel my wife's kitchen, and I'm going to build her a set of CVG white oak cabinets, and it's going to take a better wood shop than this. And this saw just came kind of as a centerpiece of the upgrade of the shop. This is a 1962 Oliver, and it has two 16-inch blades. I can turn up one or I can turn up the other. Look at that. It's just amazing. There's no power. I haven't brought the power into it yet. It's 3-phase, so I've got to run some 3-phase in here for that. It's got a sliding table. Look at that. It's just breathtaking. And so I'm going to use that sort of as the catalyst for actually turning this into a wood shop. I've got to get these blocks and shivs hung back up. They were in here when I closed in the top of this last winter, so I had to pull them down off this pole, and I've got to get those displayed. I just got this hand cart from my friend Steve Vincent. He built that in 1995. And that is built to the specifications from 1857. It was a hand cart that was specified. So the Mormon migration, most of the world isn't even familiar with that. There were lots and lots of the members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints who came from the East Coast to the West. And they settled in Missouri until Governor Lilburn Boggs, it was chaos. We brought a lot of it on ourselves. We didn't bring all of it on ourselves. And Governor Boggs issued an extermination order and to drive the Mormons out any way you can. You could shoot them if you had to. And so a lot of them pulled hand carts like that from Missouri to Utah. Think of that. Put your possessions on a cart like that and head west. He just did such a beautiful job on it. I just love having it in the shop. I winch it up and down with the boat winch that I've got over there, and I just love having it. I've got to put a new roof on this shop one of these days. The leaks are mobile. It'll leak here for a while and there for a while, and you chase it, and then eventually the leak just kind of goes round and around, but that's okay. We'll get a new roof on it one of these days. I've got coal stored over here because it's hard to get smithing coal. Good smithing coal comes from east of the Mississippi. The stuff west of the Mississippi doesn't coke. It doesn't turn into coke. It just burns and it smolders and it gets hot, but it's not nice. And so it's hard and it's expensive to get it out here from the east. So I've got quite a bit of it jammed in there, and we bring it out as we need it. So I built a mill when I was 20 and 21, and that was the blade that was on it originally. And then I put one on that was 2 inches bigger in diameter. And I ended up moving the sawmill back to Wyoming, and we lived there and ran it after work and on weekends. And so that was the sign. We had that alongside the road as a sign. And I'll tell you what, keeping a 50-inch diameter circular saw blade standing in line with the tension correct at the right speed as you run it through a log it's a real trick, and it's very compelling.